Hello, my name is Kelly, and I'm a top Overwatch scientist. I've been at my craft for well over 6 years, studying and documenting the colloquialisms and common behaviors of Overwatch players. It is now, after compiling my findings, that I may release the ultimate guide to Overwatch vocabulary and teach you how to understand anything that might come your way in an Overwatch game. Overwatch is the only game where you can hear "kill the baby, then come on the floor" in a professional match. Of course, this means to kill the pilot of D.Va's mech after it's been destroyed, and to use Torbjorn's ultimate, clearly, come on. Mauga is still the newest character in the game, and lingo around his abilities are subject to change. But with all my research, I think his ult would be called Domain.
領域展開無料空所
Other oddities include Soldier 76, who might be referred to as legs, Sojourn, who might be called thighs, though this has fallen out of favor recently, and Mercy, who might be called moth while she's in her ult, because she's a disgusting creature. Some of the most popular terms are he's one, which probably means that the person in question has full health. He's absolutely one, or he's absolute, are generally respected, and you can trust these callouts 90% of the time. C9 is when a team gets out the payload or objective when they're winning a fight. This can also be expressed as Cloud9, letter number, or my personal favorite, Charlie Niner. Nobody really uses right anymore, as a proper C9 would happen when people get off the point when they're winning a fight. But nowadays, people say that a C9 is just getting off the point to lose a fight or a map, regardless of if you're winning or not. The most famous example in the Overwatch League is when Youngjin of the Shanghai Dragons stepped off the payload on Dorado in overtime, eventually costing his team the match.
Oh, Youngjin. Oh my god. That was actually a C9.
The corruption of the word C9 probably comes from its insane spam, especially during 2017 in Moon's chat, where he got insanely tilted to people using it so much, which caused him to use it more and more, and eventually we ended up here.
Time to watch my favorite Overwatch streamer, Moon_OW. Oh, I see that he's about to lose the game. Let me quickly type C9 lol.
An additional funny piece of trivia is that the original C9 happened in a game where J3 played, back when he was still called J3sis. Why did he ever change that name? It was such a classic. Some terms you'll hear every game that can help you get a better understanding of Overwatch are that of a main versus a flex or off. There's a main and flex for tank and support, and for DPS things are a little bit different. But starting with tank, a main tank is generally going to be someone with a shield as their main form of damage prevention and some sort of crowd control. The most famous examples are Reinhardt and Winston, though with Overwatch 2, every tank kind of has to be a main tank, so the definitions are going to shift over time, as more characters are reworked and made to fit the new mold. As for off tanks, in Overwatch 1, they would be a complement to the main tank, offering another form of damage mitigation like D.Va's Matrix or Sigma's Grasp or Shield. That being said, these distinctions are dying off as all tanks have fulfilled both roles now, which is why the new tanks that have been added, Ramattra, Junker Queen, and Mauga, all have some way to gain health back, whether it be through a change in form or lifesteal. This is still a good distinction to know though, as generally a main tank is better for making space and an off tank might be better for peeling or causing disruptions, so choose based on playstyle, map, or composition. The difference between flex and main supports puzzles everyone. The misconception is that the difference has to do with healing output, but it doesn't. It has to do with the way the healing is received. For example, Lucio and Baptiste both do AoE healing, but Lucio is the main support and Baptiste isn't. That's because Lucio offers more than just healing, with the speed boost, whereas Baptiste, despite doing more healing, only has his healing ability and his gun. If this is confusing, that makes sense. It's not exactly intuitive, but a way to remember is that the main supports usually have their healing ability bound to M1 by default. Moira has bounced around the classifications, so I would consider her a main support, but it seems a lot of people these days think she's a off support, so it's kind of a gray area there. But Kiriko, Mercy, Lucio, Brig, Moira, and Lifeweaver are considered main supports, though Kiri depends more on the playstyle. These classifications are also changing with power creep, as new support characters got better healing abilities and better auxiliary abilities, as seen with Kiriko, Lifeweaver, and Bap, who have insane output and utility, all with the ability to completely save people's lives. For DPS, the distinction is hit scan versus projectile. Hit scan characters are heroes like Soldier, Cassidy, and Ashe, and projectile characters include Genji, Pharah, and Hanzo, along with others. The distinction here is easy, as hit scan characters have, shocker, hit scan guns, and Flex DPS, as it's sometimes called, have projectile weapons. Flex DPS is a term that used to be used when DPS players had to flex on a tank, usually D.Va or support, usually Brig, and Goats, when that was still a thing. One-tricks are another staple of Overwatch. People build their careers off the characters they one-trick, from Skysty to Bastion main to Fury 500 and PvPXD Apex Legends player. One-tricks make people's careers. One-tricks, or OTPs, are people who choose one character to play, at least 95% of the time. You've probably heard all about Mercy one-tricks, who are so dedicated to their character, it's scary. There's no shortage of Mercy training grounds, Mercy tech videos, and Mercy ethics discussion committees. This is a real thing. People are disgruntled because some Mercy players are breaking the code, which is that one Mercy should not kill another. Soon they will have a Mercy main Moses and Mercy 10 Commandments. This just shows people have crazy dedication to their heroes. These days, one tricks aren't as big a deal, as every character is at least playable. But back in the day, if you got a Bastion one trick on your team, they would just hold the game hostage and make you play around them or just accept the loss.
Bastion is a way of life for me. Go in there, I bend them over, I open their cheeks nice and wide.
I have no problems with one tricks anymore, and neither should you. We can all coexist peacefully. This talk of Mercy players leads me to the next important thing you must know, and that's edaters. You can tell there are edaters if they have matching profile pictures, usually Genji and Mercy ones, or matching usernames, usually including his and her, like the DPS player's name being her master, and the support player's name being his kitten. This also reinforces the harsh Overwatch patriarchy, as it seems that only the man is allowed to play DPS. These edaters will usually be playing Ashe Mercy, Pharah Mercy, Echo Mercy, or just any DPS character that can be pocketed easily, and Mercy. It is important to identify edaters so you know who not to flame, as if you flame a support edater in voice chat, you will hear the grimiest and greasiest voice emerge from the chat seconds later to flame you back. You just gotta be careful in this regard. Moving on, the idea of Elo Hell has been around in Overwatch since the first player was placed in gold. Elo Hell is defined as being stuck in a rank that you are too good for because you constantly get teammates who are worse than you that hold you down. Someone who believes they're in Elo Hell might think they belong in a higher rank and might believe in loser's queue. A belief that Blizzard is conspiring against you to give you trash players on your team to keep you losing. I would say that this isn't true, but sometimes it's undeniable and games just feel completely unwinnable. Everyone must believe in loser's queue sometimes. This idea was more common in Overwatch 1, when you had more teammates to blame, but it still exists. And yes, sometimes your teammates are going to be bad and stop you from winning, but that shouldn't be true all the time. You're the only one who's in all your games, and if you're really good, you should win at least 50% of the time and be able to rank up. Of course, the existence of loser's queue implies the existence of winner's queue, but top scientists are still looking for it like the holy grail. Compositions are also important to know in Overwatch. These are very simple descriptions, but realistically, these should be enough for a basic understanding. There are basically 3 comps in Overwatch: dive, brawl, and poke. First, dive is usually identified by a fast tank, i.e. Winston, Hammond, or D.Va. You usually play around targeting one person and following the tank. DPS usually flanking and converge onto one person. Supports might include Ana, Zen, Lucio, Moira. Basically any support can fit with this comp, but Ana Lucio is traditional. This is the best comp. Brawl is sometimes called Rush, Deathball, or even Goats. It's identified by Ryan, Mauga, sometimes Rissa, Hog, or even Hammond. This one definitely has the most variation in tank because it's centered on Lucio, who initiates fights with speed boost. This comp involves staying in a tight group and charging straight into the other team. This comp always comes back, and my favorite version was Hog and Ball Torch in Overwatch 1. If you know, you know. The last is poke or spam. Make sure you poke that subscribe button if you're enjoying this video and spam the like button. Is that a good plug? This is mostly based on the DPS and tanks like Sigma or Ram, or those who have shields and range. This can be played with double sniper or pocketed Ashe. The main gameplay involves playing back, waiting for picks, falling asleep, playing for... Oh, what? Oh yeah, no one likes playing this comp, but sadly it's usually optimal to just wait for picks in Overwatch to make sure you never take a fair fight. This next section will be about understanding Overwatch colloquialisms and terms you might hear to make fun of others on a game-to-game basis. First, it's important to note that the average Overwatch player in Diamond or Plat who uses voice chat is probably 15 to 17. There is such a thing as the Overwatch voice, and it's hard for me to summon it on command, but if you want a great example, you can watch Dante or just my old videos. This voice is famously very whiny and nasally, and you can easily tell every time somebody's using it. Understanding this voice is extremely important to understanding an Overwatch player. Most of the things people who talk with the Overwatch voice say are complaints. If you ever hear someone say, "I killed 3 and we lose?" you might as well just leave the game, because you're playing with one of the most annoying people to ever live. You might think that it's deserved to say that, because if someone really did kill 3 and lose, they deserve to be upset. But, as a clairvoyant, I can say that they did not kill 3, and they just want to complain. In Overwatch 1, there were medals that told you how your stats stack up to the rest of your team, but now we have a leaderboard, and it's easy to see who's doing the best on the team. But there's one hidden stat that only the top 1% most annoying Overwatch players will bring up: final blows. If anyone in your game ever brings up final blows, and I mean this 100% genuinely, leave instantly. This is a rare type of player who craves nothing but conflict in voice chat. It's debatable whether or not they even like playing. The only way to save yourself from their wrath is to just leave. If you ever hear, "You're so mad," that means the person is probably losing and annoying. "You're so boring," that means they're losing, annoying, and they probably play Valerant. It's just so hard. In regards to Overwatch, it's not the same as what your mom said to me last night, and is actually said by someone who is losing and thinks they're carrying the game. You will hear this a lot in mid-diamond from a hard-stuck DPS player. The creme de la creme of toxicity that you can hear from somebody on your own team is Team Diff. The reaction of your team when this is typed in chat will be animalistic. There are many things that I've seen people who have said Team Diff in all chat be called, many that I will not be repeating here, but the bottom line is that you should never type this in chat no matter how bad your team is. Another more recent development in Overwatch toxicity is the idea of a diff or a gap. The most common one you hear is main tank difference, or MTD. Most people don't say this anymore because there's no such thing as a main tank diff, because neither tank really has to play a main tank. But the idea of a gap, especially between DPS players, is still common. If you see this in all chat, don't worry about it. But if it comes from your team, have a real discussion with your teammates. The idea started from famous streamer Super Team Fortress, and as he is basically the last popular Overwatch streamer, they caught on super quickly. Get it? This term can also be expressed by using anything that is deep or large. For example, if I say tank Mariana Trench or DPS Great Barrier Reef, I'm essentially saying diff in a more creative way. Within the world of Overwatch, there's nothing more toxic you can do than to call somebody a Valerant player. Valorant players most often inhabit mid-diamond or low masters, and they typically play Tracer, Genji, or Soldier. These people can be super annoying, and I recommend that you don't interact with them unless absolutely necessary. Don't call someone a Valorant player unless you really mean it, because this really strikes a nerve with Overwatch players. A common misconception we see is that people who play Overwatch are good people, but whenever someone types GG or GR, you think that they're just enjoying themselves playing the game and hoping for a fun, competitive match. That's when they get you. This isn't what they mean at all. Everyone in Overwatch is a brutal savage, waiting to make fun of players in any way they possibly can. In Overwatch, there's nothing more toxic than congratulating another player or the enemy team. If someone types GR in chat when they just won the round, they are talking trash, and it's time to start trying. If they lost the round, stay vigilant. They're probably making fun of their own team though. There are rare examples of seeing GR as a good thing, but these cases are very few and far between. The last important concept is that of the ego swap. This is when someone on the other team switches characters because they're getting dominated. A common example of this is switching to Widow if you're getting owned by Widow, to counter them. The same thing applies with Rein or Tracer. Now, Reinhardt is possibly the most ego-driven character in the game, because you are literally right in another man's face for the whole duration of the match if you're playing a Rein Ditto. When someone plays into a Rein Ditto, they're putting their entire ego on the line, and the winner earns the right to type in chat at the end of the game. The newest addition, and my current personal favorite term, is James Bond, or Secret Agent. With the new scoreboard, you can see how many deaths someone has, and if someone has 0 kills, 0 assists, and 7 deaths, they've completed the James Bond challenge. That's about it for today's video though. If you enjoyed, please subscribe. I also added a new member thing down below, so if you want to help support me make more videos, it's $5 a month, and you get some nice perks with it.